Okay, so this is the heart. Anytime that we look at the heart, usually we look at the anterior view. The anterior view means that you're looking at it as if a person is standing in front of you, okay? So that means the right is going to be on the left side and the left is going to be on the right, okay? Based on, because the person's going to be standing in front of you facing the opposite direction. So first of all, we're going to talk about the layers of the heart. The heart has three layers. First of all is the outer layer called the epimetrium, okay? I'm sorry, epicardium, okay? I'm thinking about the uterus. Anyway, so the epicardium is the outer layer of the heart. Now, the heart is actually surrounded by a loose-fitting sac called the pericardium, okay? But the epicardium is the layer that actually covers the heart itself. And you all know of it as the visceral pericardium, okay? But classically it's known as the epicardium, all right? Then the muscle of the heart, because you know the heart is a muscle, right, is called the myocardium. Okay, so the myocardium is just the middle muscular layer. And then the inner layer, the inner lining of the heart, is called the endocardium. So it makes sense. Epi is surrounding it, above it, myo, muscle, and then endo, inside. So again, we're looking at the front of the heart. So that means that this chamber right here, and by the way, the heart is made up of 4 chambers. You have 2 atria. Each one is called an atrium. And then you have 2 ventricles. The ventricles do most of the pumping. The atria kind of just give a little bit of a kick to get the blood into the ventricles, okay? So the right atrium is here. It is the chamber that receives blood from the rest of the body. Then you have the right ventricle, which is here. Then you have the left atrium. The left atrium receives blood from the lungs. And then the left ventricle is this chamber right here, okay? Now, as blood flows through the heart, it goes through different valves. The valves are the parts of the heart that prevent backflow, because you don't want blood to flow backwards after you pump it. So this is the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve separates the right atrium and right ventricle. This is and you can kind of see this area here. This would actually be the mitral valve. It's also called the bicuspid valve, but classically it's known as the mitral valve. The mitral valve separates the left atrium from the left ventricle. And then you have the pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve is easy because it separates the right ventricle from the pulmonary trunk. Pulmonary trunk is what eventually carries the blood to the lungs. And then right here is the aortic valve. And the aortic valve separates the left ventricle from the aorta, okay? Now, some other parts you need to know. So these stringy parts right here, and they're right here as well, that kind of come from the valves, those are called chordae tendineae, okay? And they help to kind of hold the valves in place so they don't prolapse and go backwards. And then you have these structures here. Those are called papillary muscles, and they hold the chordae tendineae, which holds the valves so that the valves don't flap backwards, okay? Now, these are the major veins that bring blood to the heart. This is the superior vena cava, superior because it's above the heart and it carries blood from the upper part of the body. And then the inferior vena cava carries the blood from the lower part of the body. Now, the pulmonary trunk is the main section that splits into the pulmonary arteries, and that carries blood to the lungs, okay? And then these are the pulmonary, this would be a major pulmonary artery right here, and then you can't see it because the aorta is covering it, but it would be that one right there. Then you have pulmonary veins, which are these, I'm sorry, not these, okay? These are pulmonary veins that carry blood back to the heart after it goes to the lungs. And so the left atrium receives the pulmonary veins. Okay? And then this big, thick artery here, the largest artery in the body, is called the aorta. And that carries blood to the rest of the body through a bunch of different branches. Okay? And now I need to go to the picture here, because the picture right here, this shows the arteries that actually carry blood to the heart itself. Okay? So if you look here, this is called the right coronary artery, which makes sense because it's on the right side. And then this is the left coronary artery right here. The right coronary artery is often abbreviated as RCA, okay? And it carries blood to the right side of the heart. The left coronary artery splits into two branches. This first branch that goes down here sometimes is called the anterior interventricular artery, but classically it is known as the LAD, the left anterior descending artery, okay? And then if you look here, there's a branch right here, and that branch right there is the left circumflex artery. And let me show you another view. So this is the posterior view of the heart. Now we're looking at it from the back, okay? And what you can kind of see here, it's not that easy to see, but just know that we're looking at it from the back, and this is the left coronary artery branching into the left anterior descending. Again, that's a different view, and the left circumflex. Okay? And then also right here, so again, the posterior part of the heart, this is coming off the right coronary artery. This is called the posterior interventricular artery. Okay? And let's see if there's anything else. Oh, this big, thick structure here, that's called the coronary sinus. That receives all the blood that drains from the heart, because as you know, veins carry blood. They basically carry blood to the heart, but remember, the veins of the heart are actually carrying blood to the coronary sinus, where it can go drain into the heart itself and then get oxygenated. Okay? Now we're going to go through the flow through the heart. Okay? And remember, when blood is deoxygenated, that means it has a lower concentration of oxygen because it is carrying blood from the body where it's taken all the oxygen. And then the red is signified as oxygenated blood. That means it gets oxygen from the lungs and it gets the oxygen back into it. So, deoxygenated blood comes from the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, flows into the right ventricle, flows through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Did I call that right atrium? Okay, just making sure. All right, right atrium, through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it goes through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary trunk, which splits into the right and left pulmonary arteries. It goes to the lungs, which you can't see on here. Then it goes through the pulmonary veins back into the left ventricle. Now remember, when it comes to the pulmonary veins, that means that it is oxygenated. So pulmonary arteries are the only arteries in the body that have deoxygenated blood because they're carrying it to the lungs. Then it comes back and you have oxygenated blood for the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins take it into the left atrium through this valve called the mitral valve into the left ventricle. And remember, the left ventricle is pumping blood to the entire body. So as you can see, the wall here, the left ventricle, is much thicker than the right ventricle. So left ventricle is here, goes through the aortic valve into the aorta, which pumps it through the rest of the body. That's it.